The great hall was unnervingly quiet. Einar, once the most celebrated skald in all the northern lands, stood before the Jarl and his restless warriors, his throat tight, his mind bare in his hands, which once plucked the harp strings with the fury of a storm and the tenderness of spring rain, now trembled uselessly at his sides. The vibrant tapestry of sagas and songs that once flowed effortlessly from him had faded, leaving only frayed threads and a hollow ache. He opened his mouth, but no mighty verse of Odin's exploits emerged, no soaring ballad of Freyja's beauty, only a rasp, a broken whisper that died in the heavy air. The Jarl's disappointed sigh echoed louder than any shout. The fire of Einar's gift, the divine spark ignited by whispers of Odin's stolen mead of poetry itself, seemed utterly extinguished. A profound loneliness, colder than any fjord wind, settled deep within his bones. His purpose was slipping away, driven by desperation and a flicker of stubborn pride. Einar sought out Valdis, the ancient seeress who lived where the whispering pines met the mist-shrouded mountains. Her dwelling smelled of damp earth, dried herbs, and time itself. Her milky eyes seemed to see through him. The gift fades, skald, she stated, her voice like dry leaves scraping stone. But the mead's power was not fully consumed by the gods and men of old. Legends speak of a single drop, the very essence, the last drop, preserved in a vessel of living ice deep within the cave of echoing verse. She described a perilous journey, navigating forests where memories became tangible illusions, crossing chasms where whispers of doubt sought to unravel resolve, and finally, facing a choice that would demand everything. It is not merely a treasure to be found, Einar, she warned, her bony finger pointing towards the treacherous peaks. It is a test. The last drop chooses the vessel it fills. The journey was a crucible. The whispering woods lived up to their name. Shadows twisted into the faces of loved ones long gone, their voices pleading for him to stay, to abandon his selfish quest. The scent of his childhood home, the warmth of a hearth he Eurodi known, were cruel illusions woven by the ancient trees. He pressed on, tears freezing on his cheeks, humming fragments of old songs to anchor himself against the phantoms of his own past. The chasm of doubt was a gaping maw of darkness, spanned only by a fragile bridge of petrified song. As he stepped onto it, the air thrummed with insidious murmurs. Your voice is already dust. What makes you worthy? The world has forgotten Einar the skald. Each step felt heavier, the void below yawning hungrily. He closed his eyes, focused on the faint, pure resonance he imagined the last drop would possess, and walked across, silencing the inner demons with sheer trembling will. Finally, shivering and bone-weary, Einar stood before the cave of echoing verse. Its entrance was a jagged tear in the mountainside, shimmering with unnatural frost inside. The air hummed not with wind, but with the resonance of every poem, every saga, every song ever sung. A chorus of countless voices from ages past, vibrating in the very stone. The sound was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying, a tidal wave of pure inspiration that threatened to drown his fragile sense of self. He pressed deeper, guided by the intensifying hum, until he reached a cavernous chamber. At its heart, bathed in an ethereal blue light emanating from the ice itself, stood a simple pedestal. Upon it rested a small vial, seemingly carved from glacial ice, containing a single, radiant drop of liquid gold that pulsed with its own inner light. This was it, the last drop of the mead of poetry. A profound stillness settled over Einar as he approached the pedestal. The chorus of voices faded to a reverent whisper. Reaching out, his calloused fingers hovered just above the icy vial. The cold was intense, yet the light radiating from the drop felt warm, promising the return of everything he lost, and more. He imagined the power flooding back into him, his voice booming once more in the great halls, the Jarl's awe, the people's adoration. He could reclaim his glory, his identity. He lifted the vial, the light from the drop illuminating the deep lines of yearning on his face. The urge to uncork it, to let that divine essence touch his lips, was almost unbearable. It was his right, wasn't it? The reward for his suffering journey? He brought the vial closer, but then clarity struck him like a physical blow. He saw Valdis's knowing, Sad eyes, he understood the seeress's warning, consuming it would restore him. But the last drop would be gone forever, the divine spark of creation itself. The very source that had birthed the world's beauty would vanish from the mortal realm. When he died, his glory would be finite. The weight of that responsibility settled upon him, heavier than any mountain. His trembling hand lowered. This was not merely a prize. It was the final ember of the god's stolen inspiration. To drink it would be the ultimate selfishness, extinguishing the very fire he sought to rekindle within himself. A single tear, hot against his frozen skin, traced a path down his cheek as he made his choice with a resolve born of profound sorrow and deeper love. Einar did not drink. Instead, he took the vial and held it aloft. Then, with a strength that surprised him, he smashed it against the ancient pedestal. The living ice shattered, but the radiant golden drop did not fall. It hung suspended in the air for a breathtaking moment, pulsing with blinding light. Then, like a captured star released, it exploded upwards. It didn't vanish. It transformed. The golden light burst through the cavern roof, invisible to the eye but felt in the soul, showering the land like ethereal rain simultaneously. The cave of echoing verse, its purpose fulfilled, began to tremble. Einar knew his path led out, not to save himself, but to ensure the magic spread. He turned and ran, the cavern collapsing gloriously behind him in a symphony of falling stone and unleashed echoing verse. He escaped, not with the mead, but with the knowledge of his sacrifice. Einar returned to the villages, his physical voice still broken, his hands still unsteady on the harp. Yet something profound had shifted. Wherever he walked, people found themselves humming new tunes. Children who had never strung two words together began crafting verses of startling beauty, singing of sunlight on fjords and the courage of tiny flowers pushing through snow. Young apprentices in far-off workshops suddenly saw solutions to impossible problems, their hands guided by unseen inspiration. Farmers felt a rhythm in their work, turning plowing into poetry. The last drop was not gone. It was everywhere, woven into the fabric of the world. Einar, sitting quietly by a hearth one evening, listened to a group of children outside composing a song about a brave skald who gave up his voice for the world. A gentle, peaceful smile touched his lips. He felt the divine spark not in his own throat, but resonating in 1,000 hearts, 1,000 new voices, singing the world into being anew. His sacrifice was the greatest song he would ever create, echoing forever in the shared breath of creation. The true mead of poetry flowed freely now, in the spirit of all.